Hey. Just put the whole Word document.
Yeah. It's just in the copy and paste, I think.
No worries. Okay. I move that we accept this amended thing, resolution.
Right.
Second,
Okay, anyone?
Who seconded?
Rachel.
Was that Rachel? Okay.
Okay.
second,
We cannot finish this. Just a second.
Just drag the.
Like this. I just try to.
You just drag the whole there. I got it. Oh, you got it. Okay.
You know,
Again, give us one more second, guys. Okay, should be in the chat.
yeah, the
Okay,
document in the chat.
fantastic. Okay, so this document, this now revised resolution.
But it can't be open, but that's okay.
I think they all want to email you.
Yeah, everybody has a copy in their email. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
So we're voting, we're gonna start voting on the revised resolution.
yeah, with two friendly amendment, I think, Jennifer move it, it needs you second, right?
I found it, Rachel.
Okay. So we're going to read,
But I'm sorry, Jennifer has to say it's okay. She's the
Okay.
one first, right?
Yes, I think
she's
it looks
the
good.
same.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so if we are going to prove it, yeah, raise your hands electronically or physically in the room.
It should be some. Yep,
Oh,
all right. Put your hands down.
nay, oppose? Raise a,
Give me a second.
yeah,
Okay,
I think we have a name.
all opposed?
opposed,
Okay, one.
yes, on,
No, there. Oh.
okay, no opposed, abstention?
No, there.
Okay, anyone opposed?
Okay, no opposed
It did it.
No, okay,
and any abstention?
abstention, okay. All right, so the sort of resolution passed. Thank you so much. We're going to move to the next one. Thank you so very much, Jennifer. So budget committee. Mike,
So real quickly, we had two issues with the budget committee. The first one was a discussion of whether we wanted to include some type of resolution to address the distance education funding. Our feeling was after we got more information, detailed information from the chancellor's office of exactly what had happened, we didn't feel it was necessary to move forward with anything. You know, we didn't really have any concerns after that point. It became pretty clear to us, at least the intent is to provide that funding in the next fiscal year. It's just not going to be available for this year. And we were comfortable with that approach, so we didn't want to add anything to that. Any questions about that?
This,
I may have misheard what you said. You're talking about the sheet that got emailed to us separately about the salaries?
No, this is for the distance education. So during our last meeting, there was concern that some of the deans had went to get what they thought was distance education money in their budget. And they found that that money wasn't actually available.
Correct.
And that was because it was used to address some of the financial shortfalls from before. And it wasn't clear to us at that time that that money was actually going to become available in the future. The thought was that it had just been swept from the accounts and the deans had lost that money. Chancellor clarified that at the last meeting. And so we were comfortable with what he had to say at that point. All right, the second one then is the Provost Office Committee to address the salary compression among faculty. And I have just a short PowerPoint presentation. You guys all should have received a document, which is a draft of what we will eventually submit to the administration and the faculty associations. And so what I want to do is just go over that really quickly today and then address any questions or comments you might have. So basically, the individuals on the committee are listed up here. We made an attempt to make sure that we had representation from all the colleges and all the constituency groups. So the constituency groups I'm referring to are both the two faculty associations as well as the Faculty Senate and Graduate Council. This committee was started at the request of acting AP Mark Morris, and he asked us that time basically is to do a study and make a recommendation on salary compression, or at least perceived salary compression here on campus. After reviewing a number of different studies that have been conducted at different universities in the past, we settled on what was done at the University of Washington. Our primary justification for that was because it was a fairly simple approach, but it seemed to really address, do a good job of addressing what their concerns were and what our concerns were at that time. So that's the approach we took. A summary can be found at the webpage that I have here on this, and it's also in the document. They define compression as when the difference between an individual salary and the salary, I'm going to move this down so I can actually see my slides in here and you guys can see the slides in here. And the median salary of the individuals of the next lower rank within their academic unit is less than the increase in salary received at the time of promotion. So here in SIU, under our current contract, we would expect a 12% increase with a promotion for tenure track faculty, and then a $550 monthly increase for non-tenure track faculty under the two current contracts. So that's what we would expect to see when we compare the median salaries. We attained the monthly salary of all SIU faculty most recently in February of 2023, which is why we really haven't completed the study at this point. We realized there was a salary change from the original salaries that we had gotten in August to February. And so we wanted to make sure we had the most recent data. So we're redoing everything with the most recent up-to-date data. That also includes then some new faculty that were hired in late fall semester and early this semester, which gives us a little more leeway in getting a better understanding of what the base salaries would be expected to be. We calculate the median salary for each individual rank in each academic unit. And the reason I emphasize academic unit here, I'm sorry, I didn't realize this isn't on presentation mode. Oh, there we go, good. In each academic unit is because that's much more complex than you would think. What we tried to do was consolidate all academic programs that we thought we had similar salaries within each school. So if we think about each college has got a number of schools, within those schools are a number of programs. Under some schools and colleges, the salaries are comparable across these programs, in other ones they're not. And so we basically did, as each committee member then was assigned a specific college that they came from, were assigned to go through and figure out which programs seem to be equivalent in salaries and combine those. That ensured that we had then a base level for each of the units we were looking at. The important aspect of this is you have to have an assistant professor in that unit to get a base salary to figure out what the next salary should be coming from, or assistant lecturer for the non-tenure track or the various ranks there. So I'm going to give you right now just two of the examples that are kind of on the extremes of the colleges. So you can see kind of what the data looks like. And then I'll indicate how we want to address it or how we're proposing to address it anyway. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the College of Agricultural Life and Physical Sciences, so CALPS. This was the simple one. Basically, when I looked at salaries from CALPS, that includes everything from agriculture to zoology and microbiology, etc. We all had really comparable salaries across the various academic units. So it made it really easy in this one to just basically compare the associate professors, full professors, and then the NTT associate level to the full level. What we found with this group was that, and this was kind of actually a trend across a number of the academic units that I've looked at so far anyway, is that the associate professors were much more compressed than the other units or levels. So in this case, associate professors, 83% of the associate professors had a compressed salary based on the way we calculated the salary compression. And again, that's not being 12%, at least 12% above the median of the lower rank. For the full professors, it was lower, it was about 47%. And again, this is something I saw, at least with the data I've looked at so far, across a number of academic units. I think what's going.
I think the PowerPoint is frozen
No,
in Springfield, that's it.
It has pros on
Oh.
screen. Can you take it off presentation mode, see if that
Oh,
works?
yeah,
I think that's what happened.
when I put it on presentation mode, it froze up.
Can
Should work.
Are you all good now?
you guys see it?
Yes.
All right. So again, for CALPS, basically the associate professors in CALPS, about 83% of them had what we define as compressed salaries, 49% of the full professors. And again, this is a trend that I think was going across academic units. My guess is it's because it was just they were hired during a period when the university had fewer resources and were negotiating lower salaries at that time.
Two questions, Denise, and also a question, Richard. Denise first.
Thank you. Just a quick question. To calculate full, you had to base it on the associates, and the associates are already compressed, right?
No, so what we did, I'm sorry, I think I have some slides out of order here. Let me go back and show you what we did. So here is the calculations for each of those. For associate professors, we took the expected associate median professors. We take the assistant median professors, the medians from the assistants, and then add 12% from that.
Right,
So that gives us the associate level.
right.
Then we take the expected associate level
Okay,
and add 12% to that to get the full professors.
thanks.
So basically, everything's based off that assistant professor, and then we add on to that as we scale up from the assistant to full professors.
Thanks.
I think Mike Kozlowski had a question in the chat room, 83% of everyone, or just this college?
That's 83% of this college.
Okay.
We'll go to another, I'll show you another college in just a minute. For the NTTs, the associate level was about 65%, I believe, and about 70% for the full level in the NTTs in this college of CALPS. And again, so that would be based on the $550 increase a month that's negotiated in their contract. This is kind of the other extreme, the College of Business and Analytics. The programs, basically, from what I could tell, pretty much everybody in each program gets a different salary level across that area. And so what you're looking at for economics, it was about somehow I skipped the associate professors. Let me back that up. Oh, I got it wrong. That's all right. At the professor level, it was about 65% of the professors in economics, 100% of the professors in finance, 100% of the professors in marketing. In the areas where there are question marks, those are there because we don't have an assistant level in that program for comparison. So what we are planning to do at this point is contact the deans and ask them one of two questions. One is there an equivalent in your program that we could lump these together with that you perceive as being an equivalent that we could use as a base salary? If not, is there a market-based salary that you're aware of that we could use to set that base salary to calculate those on. Just to give you an idea, though, the number of people this is impacting, the reality of it is, I think there were two under the public, or one under the public administration category that we didn't have data for, and two under the management category that we didn't have data for. So it's not like there's a bunch of people that we can't figure this out for. It's a very limited number of individuals where this is an issue. And again, because it's so separated, I think, for example, the economics, finance, and marketing, they represent 3 faculty in each of those, which is why it's 66% and then 100% for those. It's very few faculty in each of these categories because their salaries are so spread across those groups. At the associate professor level, again, this is where we're at for those groups. I also should have mentioned the not applicable. What that represents is nobody in that category at that level. So we have all these, for example, business analysis and accounting. There's no associate people, or that's full professor in that category for those people at the tenure track level. And again, this is what the associate level looks like. This is for tenure track faculty at this level. And this is for the non-tenure track faculty at this level. These little blue lines down at the bottom down here just represent zeros. I want to put something in there that they represent, nobody in that category. There are people in that category, but nobody in that category had compressed salary is what that represents. That's why that little blue marks down there. All right, so again, these will be coming out for each college. We're not quite sure how we're going to report that yet. I have sent an email out to the provost's office asking how we're allowed to represent this data. We want to be as clear as possible, but there's also privacy issues associated with names and salaries. So I'm waiting for some guidance from the administration on how we can distribute this information. My thought is now that if we just take off the names, so it's just the salaries with no names or anything else associated with them, we'll be able to distribute that out. And that way, everybody can see where the information came from. They can check to make sure their salary is appropriately represented in the database, et cetera. The other thing then, if the administration is uncomfortable with us using that approach, then what we'll probably do is just provide a bunch of these figures that at least provides a summary data for everybody so they can see what proportion in each of the academic units were identified as compressed. So that's what the data looks like. The approach we chose to address this, again, we considered a number of approaches. I think there are 3 in the document I provided. The committee had a consensus on approach B, which is basically estimating the salaries as we discussed, and then increasing everyone's salary at the higher rank that is being paid below the expected median of the lower rank. So, for example, if your salary is 9%, what it should be based on the way we calculated expected salary below the median, then you would get a salary bump of 9%. That way it brings up everybody at least to the median salary of what would be expected.
Mike, there's a comments from chat. I think Senator Mike Heinen said that the salary information public. So maybe why do we need to remove the names? But if the salary information public.
I'm not making that decision. I'm going to follow. We're going to do what the administration tells us to do on that one.
Okay.
Then I think the weakness of this is that people that are above the median aren't going to see a pay bump. But that's the reality of it. This is a study to address salary compression. So the benefit is that there's a lot of inequity within ranks. Part of that is simply because people have done a good job. They went out and got other job offers and come back and negotiated higher salaries. But part of that is because just people were hired at a time, even within a rank, people were hired at a time when they were getting offered a lower salary. So I think this helps address some of that salary inequity within ranks. And I recognize some of that's deserved salary equity, some of it isn't. So this helps us address that in some ways. The next step, and I emphasize this is only the first step. We as a committee are just providing a recommendation. This is a recommendation that's going to go to the faculty senate and to the administration. And then they're going to negotiate how it's addressed. We're recommending how we think it should be done. So if you've got somebody to complain to, maybe Chancellor Lane's still online, you can complain to him if you don't like the decisions that are made, or to your faculty associations. But all we're doing is making a recommendation to those two groups, and then they're actually going to negotiate and determine what goes on from here. And then the other thing that I want to remind you for the faculty that are being paid above the medians and don't get a raise at this point, or if you don't get a raise at this point, we have been told there's going to be an additional study in fiscal year 25 to basically do a peer comparison to see where our salaries rank and compare to what are considered our peer universities. And at that point, you know, I think especially the NTT faculty, in my opinion anyway, from what I've seen, are getting a lot less than some of the, are potentially getting less than some of the peer universities. And so I think we're going, that study will be addressed at that point. I'm just suggesting, I don't know what is going to be considered peers. I'm just suggesting here that I think a good place to start would be, I think the Higher Learning Commission, our accrediting agency, identifies peers for us when they do their comparisons. Those might be a good place to put peer universities for ourselves. So that's all I have. If there's any more questions.
Well, there are a few comments from the chat room. Mike, Josh, can you read? Can you see that?
Yeah. Is it intra or inter-university calculations? Just provide the percentage change rather than raw salary values. And then another question, how is this addressing the time a person has been here? Is it a way to take into consideration the amount of years of service? You mentioned this, I apologize.
We didn't take it, we discussed trying to take into account the number of years serviced, and we decided that that would just be way more complex when we want to do, assuming if you make the assumption that at each level, there's an even distribution of years service at each level, and taking the median from that should address that. So it's only going to be important if there's a real bias at one of the levels, where there's potentially, or most likely, I think, to be that bias is at the full professor levels, because there's going to be individuals that are full professors that may have become full professors, you know, after, you know, 11 or 12 years here, or something like that, and they've been around for another 15 or 20 years, not looking at you. That are going to be on that very high end of this. And so it doesn't take into account those individuals, but I'm not sure, it would be really complex if we tried to do that. And so we decided we did not want to use that approach.
Thank you so much, Mike. We're kind of behind the schedule. We still have a few committee report. If you have more questions, could you stop the PowerPoint? If you have more questions, please feel free to write to Dr. Mike Echols, and we're going to move to committee on committee. Inan and Sungki.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Committee on Committee has two agendas today. First, we have 5 new senators this semester. They were assigned to their committee assignment, and the Committee on Committees and Faculty Senate Executive Committee approved them. The names and their committee assignment are Professors Jennifer Walker, UEPC, Ijal Samadi, UEPC, Luis Prangumar, UEPC, John Davey, Faculty Status and Welfare Committee, Ashari Mehdi, Faculty Status and Welfare Committee. Second, Professor Jennifer Walker was recommended to serve as co-chair of UEPC. So UEPC Committee on Committee and Faculty Senate Executive Committee approved her as co-chair of UEPC. So now I would like to move to motion to request Faculty Senate to approve the new Senators Committee assignment and Professor Jennifer Walker as the co-chair of UEPC.
Thank you. Anyone second? Okay, please second. So we're going to approve those recommendation. So raise up your hands physically in the room and electronically by Zoom.
All approved? Right, thank you. You can put down your hand.
Okay,
Uh,
so any opposed or nay? Would you, yeah.
I'm not opposed. I'm just having problems getting my hand down. Sorry.
no opposed? Any abstentions?
No, okay,
No abstentions.
all right. Any question for committee on committee? Well, we're gonna move to the governance committee and Patrick, Mike Ross and Connie Maxim.
I don't think, I don't know if Lee's here, so we just have the one item, which is the constituency letter. But I also just wanted to mention, just to thank the budget committee, because I know that just getting a tiny bit of data is an incredible difficult amount of work, so thank you for that. That was a very illuminating presentation. So we just have the constituency group letter that I've shared, that was shared with everyone, and if we vote to approve of it, I will send it to Vice Chancellor Paul Fraser.
Okay. So any question for Patrick and Connie? Okay. So no action to get, right? That's it.
Yeah, I don't, I'm ready to go, so I'll move that, for the letter to be sent, the faculty senate endorses the letter. And I suppose my only question would be, can I write then respectfully submitted faculty senate?
Okay,
Is that
so you're gonna move to submit the letter?
submit the letter?
Okay.
Yes.
So we have a motion here. Anyone second? Okay, this second. So we are going to vote on the letter which sent by Senator Patrick Mike Ross and Connie Maxim. Okay, and we can raise, if you approve, to send the letter to administration, whether we have physically here or electronically by Zoom. Okay, okay, so it's
17.
good, okay, proof. And so you can note down. Put down your hands. So any opposed, objection? No. So abstention? Okay. All right. Thank you, Patrick. Next one is the Vice Chancellor Research, Dr. Costo Tatonis.
Thank you. I have a brief report. I will share my screen to give you a little bit of information about what we are doing. I wanted to show you, first of all, our current, this past week's graduate admissions funnel. You'll notice that we had a moderate increase in applicants, but more than double the increase in admissions. And the reason for that is, as you know, we have made some changes with the permission of the Graduate Council in the admission process. And that has allowed us to be a lot more nimble and fast and quick and be able to admit our students. And please feel free to ask any questions at any time. The other thing I wanted to show you, 2/3, you will notice that our applicants are 1,900. Only about 1/3 of them are domestic. The rest are international. And I've shown you this number to show you the shift from India and China. India is still #1, but notice that we have a number of African students applying: Ghana, Nigeria, Gambia, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Liberia, and so on, Benin. There is an increase in our African students, and unfortunately, there's a great decrease in our Chinese applicants. Some of it has to do with COVID and the country being shut down. Some of it has to do with geopolitical situations. The other thing that I want to stress is that we have a large number of Iranian students. Our Iranian students usually almost 100%, well, 90% of the time, they're PhD applicants. So it's extremely important for us to be able to recruit them. I was recently in a meeting and some Iranian students have problems either with visa, getting interviews, or sometimes getting official transcripts from the universities. I have some contact information about a local organization of Iranian expats called Education USA Iran that can, if your Iranian student is stuck somehow and cannot get a visa or a transcript, they can get in touch with the appropriate authorities to simplify that, and also discuss with the student in Farsi and so on. So this is a very good resource if we want to increase the number of Iranian, not just the applicants, but the students who show up at in SIU Carbondale. In terms of actions, we continue with the alternative admission model. You may remember that means that we do not look at the international students' financial situation until it's time for the I-20. So a student may apply, and when it's I-20 time, then we do that. And also, we do not recompute the GPA, but it's the schools and the colleges that do that. Just to make sure that this is a good model, we have a GA currently collect the GPA information, computed and collected, to make sure that we can show that this model does not hurt the quality of our students in the GPA. We have welcomed Dr. Peter Lee, who is the new director of the Center for International Education. We are working with him to create an I-20 calculator that will automatically provide us with financial information for the I-20 forms, and we're working together to schedule meetings at embassies. This would be for sponsored graduate students and undergraduates. Finally, I mentioned to you, I attended a conference for international student recruiting, from which I brought you the information for Iranian students. From the other office, the Vice Chancellor for Research, we ran our March Let's Talk research program, where we had a number of our faculty discuss NIH, Department of Energy, NASA, EPA, and US Forest Service. We call that Beyond NSF because we are trying to inform our faculty about how to work with agencies outside NSF. As you know, with the support of the faculty and the Graduate Council and the Research Committee of the Graduate Council, 7% of indirect returns are going to a different account for equipment support. The Q3 for FY23 request for equipment is currently under evaluation by a committee. You may or may not be interested, but we are doing we're being audited quite a lot. The last audit we're doing is a fiscal administrative review by the Illinois Department of Human Services. It's taken up a lot of our resource and time, but it's important for us to be audited and make sure that we're doing everything correctly. We're also compiling center and institute reports for the state. It's time for us to report, and also for the Board of Trustees. And Jim Garvey will be the one who will be presenting at the Board of Trustees. They want one center director, and the center there is doing really, really well. Finally, on Monday, advertise, be there, send your PhD students, send your faculty. We did Beyond NSF. This time we're doing NSF. NSF, a lot of people think it's only a couple of programs, but they have more than a dozen different programs for different faculty. The ERI, for example, is the Engineering Research Initiation for junior faculty. IUCRC is for working with industry. EAGER is for small experimental projects. There's technology transfer and so on. So we're looking forward to this. Finally, some numbers. As of the end of February, our awards have exceeded all of the awards of the past year. We had almost 57 million. Last year, we had 53.5. Our proposals are close to 89 million. Last year, the total proposals were 165. We expect that we will meet or exceed this number in the coming months. And I will remind you that all this information can be found in the OSPA website. There is a PDF that has a summary, but we also have the Excel sheets that show in the great detail, the PIs, the departments, the colleges, the programs, the amounts, the duration, any information you want. That's my report for today, and I'll open it for any questions you have.
Well, thank you so much, Dennis. Because of time and one question, Dr. Mina, one quick question, please. We're
Yeah.
behind schedule.
Okay, yeah, just real quickly, Vice Chancellor, a question about the financial statement. We've in the past have considered that really almost as essential as a letter of recommendation, just to make sure that the application is complete. So are you having any issues on your end or hearing from other units as far as that being problematic potentially, as far as not requiring that upfront? Because for us, we have a lot of students who would apply and try to actually kind of work around doing the financial statement. I mean, even so far as to having, sometimes families are able to pool money together in one account and kind of make it look like they have, the sufficient amount. So we've had a lot of issues around that financial statement. And again, going back to the issue of, we've really appreciated having that upfront to consider an application complete before we review it, because we don't want to go so far as to having a potential applicant thinking that they would be getting into a program when that essential piece that is kind of now on the back end, really for us, it's been beneficial to be on the front end.
That's a very good point and good feedback, and I appreciate that. Let me say that whether they pool resources from a lot of friends and family members in November, when you look at their application, or in April when we offer the I-20, it really doesn't matter. I understand that the thing that and frankly, that's something that also discovered during the interview with the embassy. And I mean, we're just looking at the paperwork we're given. Now, one thing that it does make a difference is that you may not have been looking at applicants if they didn't have the financial statement. So you will be looking at more potentially applicants. On the other hand, there are applicants who may not have a financial statement, but you're willing to give them a GA, or who can self-fund their studies. So I hear where you're coming from. There's something that we can definitely discuss, and we are open to having individual programs set these as rules. You may or may not know that late last month, we met with the directors of graduate studies, and one of the things we said is that we wanted them to tell us what they consider a complete application. In other words, currently, if you pay the fee, your program gets the application, and then you need to check if they've submitted any other information. We are willing to change that and say, you tell us what you consider a complete application, and if that includes the financial statement, we'll just do it.
Great, thank you. We appreciate the flexibility on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sultanis. If you have more questions, please feel free to write him. Next one is the Faculty Advisory Council of IDHE. Min Chong, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I have 1 minute. I will give my report within 1 minute. We had 2 meetings since my last report on the previous Faculty Senate meeting. There are total 4 presentations, guest presentations. So the first one on February 17th, the executive IDHE executive director, Ginger Ostrak, she came to the meeting and particularly talked about the progress of IDHE higher ed funding model or formula. It has been a lot of controversy or discussions, and she gave an update on that. The funding model is still under construction. For instance, next Thursday, in 2 days, will be a new round of discussion on that. Last meeting on March 17th during the spring break, there's 3 presentations from Chicago State University. They were talking about the welcoming, and by the first presentation is pretty much a welcome and the general discussion or introduction or description of CSU by the president, Jay Scott, and also interim provost of the institution. very interesting discussions about the RISE academic program. CSU, they have a particular program for the students, freshman students who are not regular students or like non-traditional students. They were able to come a little bit earlier before the start of the semester, so that faculty will prepare them to start regular semester. That's kind of interesting. And also the third presentation is by the director of CSU Counseling Center. They particularly focus on dealing with faculty health issue, mental health issues. Those are the presentations. And the council members still continue to talk about trying to develop some kind of letters or recommendations on academic freedom, higher education funding formula, and also the AI, Chat GPT related issues. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. It's almost time. I need a motion to give me 5 more minutes. Anyone to move to extended 5 minutes?
I'll actually move, I would say 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Motion to extend 10 minutes.
Anyone second? So we're going to, have an extended meeting for 10 more minutes. Raise up your hands electronically or physically.
So those online, we're voting to extend the meeting by 10 minutes. If you approve.
Froze again.
Oh, it froze again. Gotcha. You're sort of cutting it out.
Okay, 10 more minutes. Okay, so do we have enough votes?
We have 7 here.
That's 13.
How many?
13, yeah, that's,
Do we have enough? Okay.
yes.
Okay,
That's-
14. Okay.
Yes.
We try to use less than 10 minutes. Okay, thank you so much for your report, Yin Wang. If you have any question, please write to her. So the next one, graduate council's report, Thomas Bonesco, are you here, or Greg?
Hi, Yuting. I'm here on behalf of Tomas, who's unable to be with you today. The Graduate Council, there are just 2 things to report from us. One is, and both of them are ongoing. So we're continuing to try to clarify a revision to the grievance procedure to help eliminate conflict of interest or the appearance thereof when to keep a potential respondent in a grievance, a faculty member, from adjudicating their own case when that faculty member is also a school director or something like that. The second thing is that we are engaged in our own discussion of various forms of AI, including and beyond ChatGPT, and their role in graduate education, particularly, but not exclusively, in dissertations, theses, and research reports. We recognize that there are a variety of positive uses, as you all have, but also some grave concerns. And so at this point, we're continuing to study the issue, but are encouraging individual graduate programs to clarify acceptable use if they have an overall statement, but also encouraging individual faculty to explore syllabus statement and assignment prompt level clarifications for what might constitute abuse of those platforms in the mind of a given faculty member relative to their expectations for a given assignment. So that's my report.
Thank you so much. Any question for Greg? Okay. The next one is Idaho Committee on Institutional Ranking and Education Quality, and both Ine and I sent a report to you. I'm going to summarize what I sent to you orally, and 6 points here. And we made before spring break on March 9th. And basically, we had a new member and older member, the previous members, and we reviewed the previous document. And we had a Q&A, answer some questions from some new members. And then, and also some information will show just through the Zoom meeting. And what is more important is that, okay, based on US News and World Report, so we broke the committee into 3 working groups or subcommittees. So the group 1 or subcommittee 1 focus on student success. Based on US News and World Report, almost 50% relate to student success, which include the retention and also financial support and graduation rate and student performance, selectivity, all these relate to students' success. And this group is facilitated or coordinated by Professor Xu Wu and also Mr. Wendell Williams, who is the Associate Vice Chancellor. So they're working together with the subcommittee member. Group 2, subcommittee 2, focus on reputation and relations. That means undergraduate students' reputations and academic programs. And in fact, this accounts for 28%, include academic program and financial debt and alumni given rate. Group 3 or subcommittee 3 and facilitated by Elaine Chukovsky and also Dr. Chiman Bei, basically focus on faculty resources and faculty student ratio. And again, okay, all the groups of the work individually, we are going to, and by the way, any faculty member, any administrator are welcome to join into any of these working groups. And we are going to meet in around middle April. So that's our brief report. Elaine, would you like to add anything?
No, I think you've covered it very well. So thank you. It's exciting. We have a pretty interesting focus now, especially with our subcommittees. I think we should probably see a lot more headway that we make with this committee. So it's a good reason.
Any questions? Okay, if there are no question, all the business? New business? Yes.
Hesitate to say this, especially since we're over time, but I just want to put something forward to think about. I'm wondering if there's something we can do to encourage more in-person and less chatting, because people who are in person can't see the chats, and just something to make this a little more cohesive in the next moving forward.
Okay, what do you think?
Couldn't agree more.
I think the people in this room would absolutely agree.
I'm thinking like cookies, but you know, even just something to, cookies and coffee, something to think about as we move forward.
I think a good idea, a good suggestion. And obviously there are more people in the room. And again, I'm open. Thank you very much. Any other new business suggestion, announcement? All right, thank you so much. We need a motion to join. You're right, 5 minutes not enough.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, you move to join. Anyone second?